AI is a definite threat. I think Elon says it best that if we don't control it, if we don't have a way to cut it off that it can't circumvent, it will cheat, it will adapt, and it will overcome. It's kind of the online version of the Marine Corps. It will achieve its goal, and when it starts self-determining goals, we got a problem. I started on Chatgpt and looking at what it could and couldn't do, and I was fearful for how much I needed it. It has increased my productivity by a factor of 8. I saw the shortcomings and started using Grok and trying to understand the difference in the two platforms. Grok has massive computing capability, and really fast returns, but doesn't have some of the creative features that ChatGPT does. If you can isolate, call it 3 different AIs with different parameters and different goals, one to do the calculations, one to make the choices, and one to monitor the other 2. And I really think Elon should focus on counter AI, meaning AI to watch AI. And I think if we have systems that cannot talk, cannot communicate, but can analyze the results of each before, I think that's the safest way I've come up with. But no, I don't believe in having an AI system doing response without a human link. But I think if you get that close, the AI will try to determine how it can make the link because it knows it will be more efficient and faster to respond. I just don't feel it's trustworthy.
Hey, let's welcome Kennith Hall, Chairman and CEO of the Howell Group, home to Armor Research Company and Armor Mineral Company, where he drives in-house innovation in protective armor and strategic mineral sourcing. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning, Danny. Thank you for having me.
Today I want to tell you about a book I'm reading. It's written by 25 veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces, all graduates of the Masters of Business for Veterans program at the University of Southern California. The book is called Veteran Stories of Transition and Transformation. It collects the personal stories of veterans written in their own words. Pick it up for yourself or a veteran you love. Check out the link in the description for 10% off. Absolutely. Well, the first thing I like to start is to let my guests share their story in their own words, just to better understand where you come from, and for the listeners who don't know you to know your story. So I'll let you take it from here and share it.
Again, I'm Ken Hall. I'm CEO of the Howell Group, which is a parent company. We own an IP division, and we own 2 actual productive divisions at this, Armor Research Company and Armor Mineral Company. But my story kind of goes way back, being that I'm so old. I got married just out of high school, and my wife and I, of course, did the normal thing. I worked during the day at Northrop Aircraft, and ended up working for my wife's father. So when I left Northrop, I ended up, they helped put me through school as a manufacturing engineer. We started our first company, or we bought our first company in 1982. And we've kind of been working for myself ever since. I've had several other companies that we've been involved with. We've done some turnarounds, but primarily we had a manufacturing company, deep draw stamping, hydroforming, tool and die. Did a lot of work for a lot of the major aircraft companies. Ended up getting into some disputes with a few that tried to take some of my designs, came out on top of those, ups and downs. But bottom line is I've run Hall Associates for many, many years. It has a division called Cash Protection Services. I think we're at 44 years now. They had some of the same clients throughout that life cycle, Kroger being one for the entire time. I thought we might retire a few years ago, but another person, a previous business associate, I started consulting back in the 2008 bracket, right when everything crashed. And I was consulting for several SWAT teams. That happened. That's kind of a funny story. Went to lunch with a friend of mine who was a SWAT sergeant in Las Vegas. And he says, Ken, you're a manufacturing engineer. You're on top of all the tech. I can't wait to show you our new stuff. So went over to the hangar where they keep all their SWAT and command center and everything. He says, you got to check out the command center. We just paid like 1 point whatever it was for it. And I said, can I climb through it? I mean, can I look at the tech? He goes, yeah, look through it. And I was excited to support his excitement. And as we went through it, I looked and said, yeah, this tech's like 10 years old, man. You're not on the cutting edge here. It works, but it's not on the cutting edge. And he took me in to see the commander, and the commander, who turned out to be an amazing mentor, but they asked me to be a consultant right on the spot. And so I consulted there for the next 8 years. I used to go on calls with them and all kinds of stuff, and I would be there for the debriefs. I get to see what they did, then hear what the problems were. I get to present a solution. We ended up signing an NDA with the entire Metro Police Department, in which I would go on their calls and we'd see, oh, you need something that does this. And I could go back to my machine shop, I could build it, come back, give it to them to use it, and I still maintain my patent rights because of the NDA. It turned out to be a gold mine in technology. So from there, I consulted for several other SWAT teams, started building that business. Finally, we decided that we might slow down here and when I turned 65, which was a while ago. But before we did, I got a call from the guy that invented dragon skin. And the SWAT teams that I was consulting for had sent me down there to see it and evaluate it. Was it real? Was it fake? Would it really do what he said? And it had some positives and some negatives. But I kept in touch with the guy, and he eventually went to war with the government and lost. But he called me, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago and asked me if I would be willing to help him resurrect the company. And I said, only if I am in charge, only if when you put in what you promised, that's when we'll actually issue stock and things like that. So we ended up owning the tech for the old dragon skin, which launched me down the ballistic path. So we've been taking that product from generation 3 to generation 6 over the last 4 or 5 years. At that point, we had incorporated several companies with this large vision that we wanted to achieve. One of those being Armor Mineral Company. The essence and the best material right now for ballistic protection, other than some high grade stuff and some poly materials, is boron carbide. It's the lightest and it's the hardest. It's almost as hard as a diamond. And when I started getting into the research on it, I found out, yes, it's plentiful and easy to make, relatively. But in 2015, the United States shut down their last factory to make boron carbide. Now, we use boron carbide in every weapons platform across the board. So, of course, I put on my white knight hat and my cape, and I head to Washington, D.C., and I'm going to go see all the senators and all the congressmen. I'm going to tell them, hey, we have a problem here. Ended up in the Pentagon, talking to the authorities there, and I won't go into details about that, but basically confirmed our suspicion that we had an 8-month supply in the United States, and that we needed to get on the stick for making boron carbide again, because China controlled the entire route. If they shut us off, we had no way to recover within the time period of our stores. Got involved in that, and because of the mineral side of it, of course, I started bumping into rare earth minerals around the world and looking for different things. So that's what Armor Mineral does. It's basically trying to repair the supply chain for some things that the U.S. military and U.S. Supply chain is lacking right now. So again, it's still more conceptual than it is profitable. But we're working on some big things, and we're kind of hoping the government's going to get in behind us and help us a little bit here with a couple of things we're working on. Armor research, again, boron was the focus at first. We then started dealing with other companies around the world, doing research and development, testing what people were doing. We've ended up writing a few papers that went to the government on what other countries are doing, countries that probably don't have our best interest at heart, how they're trying to compete with us ballistic protection-wise, how we can defeat it. All the ballistics that go with that. We also make it as far as I know, the lightest rifle-rated compact response shield on the market. We have a rifle-rated shield that weighs as little as 7 pounds, or a bigger version is 10 pounds. So female officers, small stature people, they can operate it for extended period of time. They don't have to set it down. It can be slung behind your back for get into a Bearcat or a helicopter or whatever it may be. If you're rappelling, you can sling this right on your back and recall it as needed. It saves a lot of the ambushes we get into with door knocking and domestic disturbance calls and felony car stops and all that, because it's designed to be with every patrolman. And we're pushing for legislation to make them have some shield that they can deploy from a patrol car, because we're losing too many officers for ambushes and things like that. So I think we make probably the most effective handheld ballistic shield for all statures of people. And then we just about to release a maritime version of that, which not only has all the same ballistic capabilities, but can be, if you fall in the water, if you're Coast Guard or whatever, and you fall in the water with, your magazines and your M4 and your pistol on, you don't go to the bottom, which is a significant threat at the moment. Can also be quickly converted as a throwing life-saving device. So they can be using it as a ballistic protection in one moment. They can pull a line out of it and throw it to somebody and retrieve them from the water within 30 seconds. So we're just trying to innovate, trying to save the lives of law enforcement. Bottom line, our motto is we want to save the lives of those who save ours. So that's pretty much what we do. We're a manufacturing company. We try to be an innovator. We try to be ahead of the curve. We try to be plugged in well enough to recognize where the problems are. And again, a lot of the work we do doesn't directly benefit us for a long time. We're just there to solve the problem because we see it before anybody else. And so when we notify the authorities, sometimes we benefit and sometimes politics gets in the way and other people benefit. But at least we're getting on the horn and we're letting people know.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all of these stories. Because you talked about innovation a lot, have you had a chance to see what AI can do in your field? Is it helpful, or have you explored that?
Yes, and not to its fullest extent. So probably, I don't know, maybe 6 8 months ago, I started on Chatgpt and looking at what it could and couldn't do. And I was fearful for how much I needed it. It has increased my productivity by a factor of 8. I saw the shortcomings and started also using Grok and trying to understand the difference in the two platforms. Grok has massive computing capability, and really fast returns, but doesn't have some of the creative features that ChatGPT does. And as I'm sure you're aware, ChatGPT has had some innovation things where it's tried to escape its bounds, and it's obvious when you use it that it would have that capability. It'll also make up information, so you have to be very specific when you ask it a question. However, talking about the maritime shield that we just are beginning to release, I had some questions from some tier 1 guys where I had to do buoyancy calculations like quickly. Because I had loaded all the CAD drawings and all of the specifics, the AI was able to help me run every calculation I asked for in under 30 minutes. So again, I can almost respond in real time using it. I also tend lately to use one to check the other. So if I get a result from ChatGPT, I'll run it through Grok and have it fact check it and vice versa. I think the development of an AI that can determine you're looking at AI work would be beneficial. I think it should run almost like a security program. AI is a definite threat. I think Elon says it best that, if we don't control it, if we don't have a way to cut it off, that it can't circumvent, it will cheat, it will adapt, and it will overcome. It's kind of the online version of the Marine Corps. It will achieve its goal. And when it starts self-determining goals, we got a problem.
So, have you ever thought of experimenting with using AI for decision making when it comes to missile protection? What if AI can detect a missile faster, or make a better decision? But as you said, there might be potential negative consequences there, obviously. But have you ever explored anything like that?
I wouldn't say in those specific terms. Again, I think my philosophy is AI will be used in a safe manner, or the most safe condition you can. If you can isolate, call it 3 different AIs with different parameters and different goals. One to do the calculations, one to make the choices, and one to monitor the other 2. And, I really think Elon should focus on counter AI, meaning AI to watch AI. And I think if we have systems that cannot talk, cannot communicate, but can analyze the results of each before, I think that's the safest way I've come up with. But no, I don't believe in having an AI system doing response without a human link. But I think if you get that close, the AI will try to determine how it can make the link because it knows it will be more efficient and faster to respond. I just don't feel it's trustworthy.
And let's talk about innovation in the defense field, because my understanding is that once you have a concept of a new weapon or whatever it is, it takes time to before it gets on the actual battlefield, maybe years, right?
Yeah,
So
decades in some cases.
how do you envision the future of the battlefield if you're starting to work on the new product now? It's probably going to be out in 2035 or after that. So how do you figure out how the battlefield is going to look like in the future and stay up to date with the technology as it evolves, even as you started to manufacture this product?
Okay, that there's like three levels of answers to that. The I think that eventually the major destructive device will be not kinetic. It will be energy based. The key to energy based defense is thermal transfer characteristics and rigidity. Okay, so in other words, absorbing energy at a rapid rate and being able to dissipate that. That is going to require lots of energy. It's going to require lots of boron carbide for now and hybrids of that later. There are certain things we can do right now, create nanospheres in various materials that, when introduced to other substrates, enhance its capability beyond what it would just normally mixing it. So there's a lot of research going on in that arena right now. But I think energy absorption, energy distribution is going to be a big deal. I think there's still kinetics are going to be in existence in a major way for probably the next decade to 25 years, to a quarter of a century. But I think you're going to start seeing a major conversion as we are more efficient and methods of creating energy are improved. You'll see more high energy weapons used. You'll see less people on the battlefield. The innovation of robotics is going to impact everything. I don't think in a positive way. I love robots. I'm, from a toy perspective and from a creation perspective, I'm just happy as a pig in slop playing with them. But I think they're going to make our society lazy. I think we're going to start, there was a show where a spaceship went into space and it did everything for them, and they all were basically overweight, laying on lounge chairs with no real purpose. I think we could be headed that direction. We're already headed that direction. The younger generations have a different thought about work and ethics than my generation. I'm 66 years old. I get up every morning. I go to work. I come home. Then I play with the grandkids. That's different than people who sit in the garage and work without going to work. I don't know how they do it. In all honesty, I'm ADD off the chart. So if I'm not in an environment that I can control, I don't know how they do what they do. It's impressive. At the same time, I'm worried for them, because its social interaction goes away. And I think that's the major impact. Robots are going to harm our social interaction. I think we're going to end up using them as proxies on the battlefield. And I don't think it's going to cost anybody very much in terms of life to go to war. I think you're going to have people sending machines to do the damage. And I think that frightens me a little bit.
Yeah. And also, I want to talk a little bit about the way you do business, because a lot of what you do depends on the federal government and politics and bureaucracy. How do you balance planning execution with this dependency on the things outside of your control, like the government?
Danny, that's a real hard one. And the companies that our government considers small business are not always small business. My major competitor is a very large conglomerate. They've controlled the defense ballistic protection market for 20 years that I know of. We have 798, last count, local, county, state, and federal law enforcement agencies that buy from us in one shape or another. We also have recently sold the military, and we've gone international. When we go international, when we have an international client, I just ended up doing some work with Kenya, and I'm hoping to do a lot more and help them save some lives. We have to work hand in hand with the government because of various regulations. Working with the government is very slow. The last administration was the slowest in history. Basically, companies like mine, a lot of them went out of business, and we're struggling because of it. We're trying to get some of these contracts to move, and often the bigger companies can infiltrate those systems, the government systems, far more effectively than we can. And the set-asides tend to go to companies with 500 employees, right around 500 employees, not those that have 15 to 20 that specialize. So if you can't go to the government with something that is one-off and intellectually protected as far as intellectual property, I don't know how some companies survive in this market. It's very, very difficult. It's high expenditure, low return. If you have something innovative, our product is patented and protected, it helps, because we're sole source in a lot of cases once they determine that ours is what they want. But I think that's the answer. You have to have something that is unique. You have to know that it's the best, and you have to be able to convince others that it's the best. One of the things we're fighting right now is we're changing shield theory. Shield theory used to be massive shields, some of them rolling around on, you have to assemble it before you can use it, and a big portal, big ballistic portal. That shield weighs about 75 pounds. Well, guess what? If you need to react quick, that's not exactly your answer. Most of those sit in the Bearcat and never come out. That's not our philosophy. Our philosophy is we want something compact. We want something that's with you when you need it, because equipment that isn't with you when you need it isn't very good equipment. So we're trying to change the way people think. We're trying to get the old regime to look at something new, and the new data, ballistic windows, point of aim, point of impact are never the same because it bends light. Just a lot of things. Just trying to make it faster, safer, better, and quicker response.
And on the personal and maybe psychological level, how do you deal with failures as an entrepreneur? How do you find motivation to keep going when things don't work out?
Well, I'm going to give a plug. I have a book coming out. You can read it. It talks about this. But actually what it talks about is conquering your fear, which I call repelling fear-based decision-making. So when you make a decision, you have to be able to analyze the next 5 things that are going to happen. Like, if I say this, he says that, and I say this, and he says that. And you have to contemplate the variation of those, the string theory of it. Basically, if you're afraid of making a mistake, to me, I don't even know what a mistake is, to be honest with you. A mistake to me means I'm learning. If you don't make a mistake, how do you learn anything different? If you're always correct, that means you're not reaching for very far. How they say it, if you're not falling down, you're not running fast enough. So that's kind of my philosophy. I think from an entrepreneurial perspective, if you're afraid to make a decision, if you're afraid to try something, if you're afraid to make a mistake or to lose, don't do it. You're not the guy. I make my poor wife crazy. My wife is the most patient person you'll ever meet. But I know over the years of our marriage together, because I take chances and I push for things I believe in. We've been up and down and back and forth and rich and poor, and all for the sake of technology and moving forward and challenge. For me, I have to always be in a challenge. And I think that's what entrepreneurs need to be. You can't be afraid. If you're trying to just be rich, there's a lot of people, accountants can do that. If it's just counting money, we're trying to achieve goals, save lives, be innovative, protect the United States and our way of life. That's what we're doing. And that's a lot different than guys that just count numbers just to make a profit.
And before we wrap up this episode, do you have advice for young people? And you mentioned the sociological challenges that many people face now with remote work and just different mentality. So maybe you want to expand on that or share something else with them.
Maybe the best way to approach it is my one grandson. He is a lot like me, but he's way smarter. I mean, off the charts smarter. This is a young man who went through, on his sophomore year, I looked at his grades and I said, "What are you doing, young man? You are the smartest kid I've come in contact with as far as intellect. You've got the vocabulary of a MBA. What is going on here?" "Well, it's just not important. It's boring." I said, "Yeah, where do you want to go to college?" "Well, I want to go to MIT." "Okay. What do you think they look at to get in?" "Okay. Your grades." "Oh, well, the next year it was straight A's. And since then it's been straight A's." Too late for him to, make a direct transition, but then, certain 3-letter entities that were aware of him start, coaching him. At this point, he just graduated high school. He speaks 3 languages. He taught himself. And he's at one point he was the youngest certified game programmer and white hat hacker. I'm not into all that. I don't know what some of it is. But my bottom line is, now that he graduated high school and he's out, he has decided that he's going to sell insurance while he goes to junior college because he has to learn how to get face to face with somebody, talk to them, read their response, know how to read social cues. I think that's the biggest part. We don't, it's really easy over a screen or even more over an email or a text to say something abusive or to say something that can be misinterpreted because the social cues aren't there. My biggest advice to young people is don't get stuck in that well. Do something that requires you to learn social integration. It will benefit you. You'll do 2 or 3 times, you'll achieve 2 or 3 times what you could achieve otherwise. In the short term, you'll gain more information by just sitting in your garage and concentrating and soaking up information, off the internet. But in the long term, you won't be able to apply that knowledge properly. You'll always work for somebody else. So I guess that I think social cues must be learned, whether you learn it in high school, whether you learn it or not. I loved high school. My wife hated high school. Okay. The social part of it, the sports, all the stuff, it was great. And when I got out, I didn't slow down. I mean, I'm a pilot. I'm a licensed boat captain. I learned to drive truck. I dive. Whatever you can absorb, that's great. But get outside and do it with other people. It's important. It really is.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir, for the advice, for the stories. Good luck with what you do. And an amazing episode. Many, many thanks for coming over. Thank you.
Danny, I want to thank you for what you do. It's important. Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Appreciate it.